29th of May, 1453, the greatest city in the world fell. Not because its walls were broken, not because its army was defeated, because someone left a gate unlocked. A small door in a wall that had protected the city for 1,000 years. Left open by accident. And through that door the Ottoman army poured in. And 1,000 years of the most extraordinary civilization in medieval history ended in a single morning. But here is what makes this story unlike anything else in this series. Constantinople had been here before. Not once, not twice, dozens of times. Plague that killed half the population. Arab armies that besieged the city for years. The Crusaders, who were supposed to be allies, who sacked it instead. Civil wars, coups, emperors blinded and thrown into dungeons by their own family members. Every single time. Constantinople came back. For 1,000 years, this city refused to die. Until the night someone left a gate open. This is Forgotten Kingdoms. And this is the story of the Byzantine Empire. The civilization that kept the light of Rome burning for 1,000 years after Rome itself went dark. That preserved the knowledge of the ancient world through plague and war and invasion. That produced art, law, theology, and architecture that still shapes the world today, and that almost nobody in America was taught existed. Before we get to the fall, and the fall is one of the most dramatic endings in all of history, you need to understand what the Byzantine Empire actually was. Because most Americans have never heard the word Byzantine used to describe a real place. They know it as an adjective: Byzantine politics, Byzantine complexity. Something needlessly complicated and impossible to understand. The irony is that the actual Byzantine Empire was one of the most sophisticated, most organized, and most culturally rich civilizations in human history. And the reason Americans don't know that is the same reason we don't know about Carthage, about Persia, about the Abbasid Caliphate. The people who wrote the history books decided it wasn't important. Here is the first thing you need to understand. The Byzantine Empire was not a separate civilization from Rome. It was Rome. When the Western Roman Empire collapsed in 476 CE, when the last Roman emperor in the West was deposed by a Germanic chieftain, the Eastern Roman Empire kept going, with the same laws, the same institutions, the same language. Eventually Greek rather than Latin, but the same cultural identity. The emperors in Constantinople called themselves Romans. Their citizens called themselves Romans. For 1,000 years after the fall of the West, they called themselves Romans. It is historians who came later who started calling them Byzantine, after Byzantium, the ancient Greek city that Constantine had rebuilt as Constantinople. The people who lived there never used that word once. They were Romans, and their capital, Constantinople, built on a narrow peninsula between the Bosphorus Strait and the Sea of Marmara, was the most strategically positioned city on Earth. The bridge between Europe and Asia, the gateway between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. Every trade route between East and West passed through it, and for 1,000 years, they controlled all of it. At its peak, under the Emperor Justinian in the 6th century, the Byzantine Empire was extraordinary. Justinian reconquered North Africa from the Vandals, reconquered Italy from the Ostrogoths, pushed into southern Spain. For a brief moment, the entire Mediterranean was a Roman lake again. But Justinian's greatest achievement wasn't military. It was legal. He commissioned the Corpus Juris Civilis, the complete codification of Roman law. Every law Rome had ever passed, every legal principle, Every court decision that mattered. Organized, clarified, written down in a form that could be used and taught. This single document became the foundation of legal systems across Europe. French law, Italian law, Spanish law, German law, the legal systems of almost every country in continental Europe traced their roots directly to Justinian's legal code, written in Constantinople in the 6th century. And Justinian's wife, Theodora, deserves her own video entirely. Born to a bear trainer in the circus, worked as an actress, which in Byzantine society was considered scandalous at best, rose to become the most powerful woman in the medieval world. When a massive riot in Constantinople in 532 CE, called the Nika Revolt, came within hours of overthrowing Justinian's government, his advisors were urging him to flee the city by ship. Theodora stood up in the council chamber and said, "Purple makes a fine burial shroud," meaning she would rather die an empress than live as a refugee. Justinian stayed. The revolt was crushed. The empire survived because of a woman born to a circus bear trainer. But here is where the Byzantine story becomes unlike any other empire in this series. Because the Byzantine Empire didn't have one golden age. It had several, and between each golden age, catastrophe. In 541 CE, the Plague of Justinian arrived. Modern DNA analysis has confirmed it was bubonic plague. The same disease that would devastate Europe 800 years later as the Black Death. It arrived in Constantinople by ship from Egypt, and within months, it was killing 5,000 people a day in the capital alone. 5,000 people every single day. The bodies piled up faster than anyone could bury them. Ancient sources describe the streets filled with corpses, ships drifting into harbor with nobody alive on board, fields unharvested because there was nobody left to work them. The empire lost perhaps a third of its population and kept going. In 626 CE, two massive armies arrived simultaneously outside the walls of Constantinople. The Persian Sassanid Empire from the east, the Avar Confederation from the west, two of the most powerful military forces in the world, coordinating a simultaneous attack on both sides of the city. The Emperor Heraclius was not even in the city. He was fighting a separate campaign in Persia. Constantinople was defended by its walls, its garrison, and its people. The Avars launched massive assault after assault against the land walls. The Persians tried to cross the Bosphorus. The city held for weeks, under coordinated assault from two directions simultaneously, with no emperor present. And when Heraclius finally returned, he launched one of the most audacious counterattacks in military history. Instead of defending, he went around. He sailed through the Black Sea, landed behind Persian lines, cut off their supply routes, and within 2 years, had completely destroyed the Persian Empire as a military power. An empire that had existed for 400 years, ended because one Byzantine emperor decided that the best defense was an attack nobody saw coming. And then came Islam. The Arab armies that erupted out of Arabia in the 630s under the banner of the new religion of Islam moved faster than anything the ancient world had seen. Syria fell. Palestine fell. Egypt fell. The entire eastern half of the Byzantine Empire, gone within a generation. Constantinople itself was besieged twice. 674 to 678 CE. The first Arab siege lasted 4 years. 717 to 718 CE. The second Arab siege lasted over a year. Both times the city held. Both times, thanks in large part to a weapon that the Byzantines had invented that changed warfare forever. Greek fire, a liquid incendiary weapon that burned on water, that could not be extinguished with water, that was sprayed from bronze tubes mounted on Byzantine warships directly onto the hulls of enemy vessels. The exact formula for Greek fire is one of history's greatest secrets. It was so closely guarded by the Byzantine state that the formula was lost when the empire fell. Modern chemists have spent centuries trying to reconstruct it. They still haven't fully succeeded. Whatever it was, naphtha, quicklime, pine resin, it worked. Arab ships spurned in the harbor. Arab armies retreated. Constantinople survived, but the Byzantines didn't just survive by fighting. They survived by thinking. The Byzantine diplomatic service was the most sophisticated in the medieval world. They converted their enemies. The Slavic peoples of Eastern Europe, the Bulgarians, the Serbs, the Russians, were converted to Orthodox Christianity by Byzantine missionaries. Two monks, Cyril and Methodius, invented the Glagolitic alphabet to write down Slavic languages so they could read the Bible. The Cyrillic alphabet, used today by Russians, Ukrainians, Bulgarians, Serbs, is named after Cyril, a Byzantine monk who invented an alphabet to convert people, to protect an empire. They turned potential enemies into cultural children of Constantinople, bound to Byzantium by religion, by art, by law, by identity. It was the most sophisticated form of soft power the medieval world had ever seen. And then, 1204, the year that broke everything. The Fourth Crusade was supposed to go to Egypt, to attack the Muslim powers that controlled Jerusalem. Instead, through a combination of debt, politics, and the manipulation of a Byzantine prince who promised rewards he couldn't deliver, the Crusader army ended up outside the walls of Constantinople. The city that had held against Arab armies for years, against Persian armies, against plague, against civil war, fell to the Crusaders in 3 days. What happened next was one of the worst acts of cultural destruction in medieval history. The Crusaders looted Constantinople for 3 days. Ancient statues melted down for bronze. Sacred relics stolen and shipped to Western Europe, where many of them remain today. Libraries ransacked, a treasury of centuries of accumulated wealth, stripped bare. A crusader, who was supposed to be fighting for Christianity, sat on the throne of the Byzantine Emperor, drunk, singing French songs. The Byzantine Empire survived even this. It fragmented into successor states, reconquered Constantinople in 1261, rebuilt, but it never fully recovered. The empire that came back in 1261 was a shadow of what had existed before, and the world around it had changed. The Ottoman Turks had been building their empire for generations. By the middle of the 15th century, they surrounded Constantinople on almost every side. The Emperor Constantine XI had fewer than 10,000 soldiers to defend a city whose walls stretched for miles. The Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II, 21 years old, had an army of 80,000 men and a cannon, the largest cannon ever built up to that point in history, cast by a Hungarian engineer who had first offered his services to Constantine XI, who had turned him down because Constantine XI didn't have enough money to pay for it. The cannon, called the Great Bombard, fired stone balls weighing over 1,200 pounds at walls that had been impenetrable for 1,000 years. The walls held for 53 days. 53 days of continuous bombardment against the largest cannon in the world. The defenders repaired the damage every night. They held, and then, on the night of the 28th of May, 1453. Someone left the Kerkerporter Gate unlocked. A small postern gate in the land walls, used for supply deliveries, forgotten in the chaos of the siege. Left open, Ottoman soldiers found it, slipped through, and by dawn, it was over. Constantine XI, the last Roman emperor, tore off his imperial regalia, threw himself into the fighting, and died. His body was never positively identified. The last Roman emperor died anonymous in the rubble of his own city. 1,000 years of empire ended by an unlocked gate. Here is what I want you to carry with you. The Byzantine Empire preserved the legal code that governs half of Europe today, preserved the Greek texts that sparked the Renaissance, invented Greek fire, created the Cyrillic alphabet, built the greatest cathedral in the medieval world, the Hagia Sophia, which stood as the largest enclosed space on Earth for nearly 1,000 years. And it survived. Plague that killed 1/3 of its population. Simultaneous attacks from two of the most powerful armies on Earth. Arab sieges that lasted years. The sack of its own capital by supposed allies. It survived all of it for 1,000 years. Because its people believed it was worth saving. Because every time it fell, someone rebuilt it. Every time the walls cracked, someone repaired them. Every time an emperor was blinded and thrown in a dungeon by his own family, someone else put on the purple robes and kept governing. 1,000 years of that, and then one unlocked gate. That is not a lesson about weakness. That is a lesson about how close greatness always is to disaster. One gate. One decision. One moment of carelessness. After 1,000 years of survival, this is Forgotten Kingdoms. And some kingdoms deserved 1,000 more years. Subscribe, because next week we go to an empire that didn't fall to a cannon or a gate left open. It fell because its own people decided they didn't need an emperor anymore, and then spent 150 years regretting that decision. The Aztec Empire. I'll see you there.